Um, Community. There are descriptions and links to the supporting organizations on the website, and everyone is encouraged to reach out to those agencies when you have questions. As well as Senator Angela McKnight, Senator Corrado. I see Chair from Senator Bucco's office. So thank you for joining us. Last year proves that you're committed to disability issues and proves that in your critical roles, you're all showing up for people with disabilities across our state. Just for a moment, in this last legislative session, specifically in the past 2 months of the session, there were at least 10 bills signed into law that had bipartisan support. And these laws specifically impact disability issues. Many of the bills and the issues were topics of discussion in last year's caucus session, one being establishing a special education transportation task force, because you listened to those issues and the difficult voices of parents who lost their children as a result of school transportation tragedies. You also listened intently when Paul Aronson spoke at the October session and shed light on his 7 years of reporting as ombudsman. He presented the most pressing needs of the disability community, and as a result of that information and strong parent advocacy, you unanimously passed bills to strengthen systems that address abuse and neglect in residential settings. The efforts of all of you and in this community are enormous, and the rewards are great. And while we recognize that our work is really never done, we should all celebrate the success and use it to fuel continued advocacy and education around the bills from last year's session that we hope will be reintroduced, as well as future bills that will positively impact the lives of people with disabilities and their families. It's not only an honor to know each of you, it's a privilege to support the caucus for the past 5 years. So I haven't looked yet, but I'm excited and hopeful that Assembly Majority Leader Greenwald has joined us as I attempt to turn it over to him to kick us off. Is he here?
Mercedes, I don't think he's on yet. He said he's running a few minutes behind. If we want to just jump ahead and he can fill in where he can later on.
Okay, well, we're the excitement in having how we compare across the country and to hear some perspectives. We've invited a list of speakers to help present that information to you today. So maybe what we'll do is we'll jump into um, introducing Rob Kimmel to you. Rob is the training and consultation specialist for the Implementation Project at the Boggs Center on Disability and Human Development. He provides training, consultation, technical assistance. We are compared to the rest of the country unemployment first. So why don't we start there and then hopefully we'll have Assemblyman Greenwald join us.
I'm here,
Mercedes, I think you
Mercedes.
just popped on.
Take it
Oh,
over. There you
thank
are.
you, Mercedes.
Thanks.
Like everybody, I think we're navigating the snow here and just getting back, out of the ice. So thank you all for joining us today. This is a good example why Zoom still last session I had a bill that I introduced years ago. It was an idea that came from many different sources, it started to move through committee. The bill would have created a program in the Department of Labor to connect individuals with disabilities to job training and employment opportunities. Folks on this caucus reached out to me and said that they agreed with the problem that I was trying to solve, and that individuals with disabilities needed greater access to job training and employment. But the approach in the bill as it was originally crafted risked creating confusion within the disability community. The groups on this call told me what we really needed was a better coordination of is the preferred option for all individuals with disabilities, even those with complex needs. That means people with and for advancement. Nationally, only about 16% of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities are competitively employed. Despite New Jersey's adoption of the Employment First designation in 2012, so far it has been more of a label than a lived reality. I think much of that is attributed to commission to guide and coordinate employment policy affecting individuals with disabilities. And I am certainly not above looking at other states and using their good ideas already in action. So this bill follows the best practices of some of the most successful employment first states. Now, I would be the first among you, and I know the last thing many of you and the individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities or their families want to hear is we're going to study it. We're going to create another study commission. That can sound like an empty promise, and I get that you want less talk and more action, but that's why it was important for us to include a mechanism in this bill to ensure follow through on the commission's recommendation. Based on our conversations, the IDD Ombudsman Office is best positioned to play that role. I'd like to see this effort move alongside Senator Corrado's legislation to increase funding and expand responsibilities of the work of the ID Ombudsman so it has the capacity to do this work effectively. The reality is that most of people's life is spent in their employable years. People with disabilities want to live their full lives. They want independence, they want purpose, and for many, that includes working and being paid fairly for the work that they do. Finding a job is hard enough if you don't have a disability. I can't imagine how discouraging it must be to be met with additional hurdles. Too often, people give up not because they lack ability, but because the systems have failed them. That's why I'm so grateful to have experts on the call with us today to provide the insight into the current employment first landscape in New Jersey and to help us figure out how to turn this designation into a real lasting opportunity. That's why I'm so glad that together we are working to solve this problem and that the people on this call can provide the additional insight into our current employment first landscape in New Jersey and share their ideas for how we can make employment first more than just a label. So with that, thank you all for being here, and I look forward to a productive conversation. Mercedes, I happily turn this back over to you.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Thank you for your leadership in proposing this legislation and looking at these recommendations of the task force to be more than just, as you said, something that goes on the shelf. A special thank you also to your staff who are working very closely and diligently in making sure that every I is dotted and every T is crossed. So we appreciate that. Um, I want to also welcome a few legislators who have since joined us, Senator McKnight, Senator Testa, and Assemblyman McClellan's office. If I missed somebody, please let me know. I'm trying to scroll through. And as I already had done, I had invited our first speaker, Rob Kimmel, to begin on the national perspective of employment here in New Jersey and the national landscape. So I think we'll go back to you, Rob, if that's okay.
That's perfect. Thank you, Mercedes, and thank you to the caucus and the council for having us here today. And I also want to thank the Assemblyman for just covering many of the topics that I'm going to be a little bit more granular going over in regards to overviewing employment first, as well as its significance and history of the federal guidance, as well as the current state of integrated employment nationwide, as well as here in New Jersey. And so moving to employment first, that federal definition from the Office of Disability Employment, employment first is a national systems change framework centered on the premise that all individuals, including those with the most significant disabilities, are capable of full participation in competitive integrated employment and community life. From there, we should further define competitive integrated employment, which means people with disabilities work in the community alongside coworkers without disabilities, earning at least minimum wage with equal pay, benefits, and advancement opportunities. Now, while that is our federal definition, the plain language is that people should not have to opt into employment, and rather the expectation is that everyone can and should engage in real work for real pay as the first and preferred outcome. And it's important because employment is an answer to quality of life. It enhances a person's ability for financial independence and security, increasing self-esteem, giving purpose, and opportunities for community participation. And beyond the individual change in quality of life, we're also looking at societal change with employment as an answer, where we challenge low expectations, and the presumption should be that all folks with disabilities can work in integrated settings with the necessary supports. Further, benefits a business's culture and bottom line, with individuals often exhibiting higher motivation, dependability, and retention through good job matching. And last but not least, societally, we're looking at policy alignment where public funds and systems can be further aligned to support competitive employment as that first choice. And so this is what Employment First is pushing for. And from a national snapshot, that federal guidance has been recognized by the Office of Disability Employment Policy, competitive integrated employment as a preferred outcome since 2012. And since 2012, more service option. 16, though, where New Jersey is one, have that administrative directive, but no current legislation. Now, as we look to some other states and how they're going about their work in engaging individuals with disabilities in integrated settings and integrated employment, the 5 states that are doing this at the top are Washington State, Oregon, Oklahoma, Delaware, and Virginia. Notably, of these top 5 states that are engaging in integrated employment at the highest level, 3 of the 5 have employment first commissions, and all 5 have employment first legislation, taking it beyond that administrative directive. When we bring it back to New Jersey is 39th out of 50 states in relation to the percentage of individuals with disabilities engaging in integrated employment activities. Looking at New Jersey's neighbors, New York, Pennsylvania, District of Columbia, Delaware, all of them have legislation committed to employment first and or an employment first commission. Now, when it comes to New Jersey, and the data that I'm sharing with you today will also be in the handouts that will be shared with everybody after the session. New Jersey is 39th out of 50th when it comes to that percentage. And when we look at the funding for integrated employment, we're looking at 1.6% of all IDD funding that is available is used for integrated employment services, in comparison to national averages of 9.1% of state funding toward these services. And then looking at the percentage of individuals served, New Jersey is at 10% of individuals utilizing integrated employment services, whereas the national average is 22%. And so while those statistics are, stark, I'm going to be handing this off now to Adam Kubler, who will be discussing where New Jersey is as far as the foundation of work that we've been doing and how this legislation can really push us forward in regards to employment first.
Thank you, Rob. Some great information. It doesn't paint the best picture for New Jersey, but I'm very confident that the move toward a commission and the attention that this issue is receiving will show great results, and we'll be able to present them in the future. Adam Kubler, next up is our employment coordinator at the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities. He has 15 years of experience in workforce development and has worked with a wide range of individuals to assist them with work readiness and employment. Before joining NJCDD, Adam directed one of the largest supported employment programs in New Jersey, and has practiced as a certified work incentive practitioner, another important component to working and ensuring that your benefits are maintained. Adam currently serves as the vice president of the New Jersey Association of People Supporting Employment First, also known as NJAPSI, and is a member of the Developmental Disabilities Advocacy Network Employment Work Group. Welcome, Adam.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. Kimmel, for sharing that information about Employment First around the country. It really provides a good context for the next portion, which, as stated, is what's happening in New Jersey. I really want to share some of the highlights about New Jersey's progress toward Employment First, let you know a little bit about where the efforts are allocated, some of the strengths that we can even build upon here as we move forward. So 2012 is an important year. In 2012, Chris Christie, he released administrative guidance or directive that competitive integrated employment was the ideal outcome for those living with disabilities in our state. However, since 2012, Rob mentioned it a bit before, but the percentage of folks living with intellectual and developmental disabilities participating in competitive employment activities, it has decreased slightly, since then. On the other hand, we have a lot of benefits that we can tap into, streamline, and focus. Since 2012, New Jersey has expanded our what's called a Medicaid buy-in. Without going too far into the weeds, essentially it allows folks who rely upon Medicaid for employment, very important vital services, to maintain that benefit and earn substantial incomes and savings. Also, we've adopted a lot of innovative service models and launched different programs. So just at the state level, for example, state as a model employer or the same program was launched. This is a special path for folks with disabilities to find state employment. New Jersey also was the recipient of grant funding from in the form of technical assistance from the National Expansion on Employment Opportunities. Our very own Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, really the primary place for folks with disabilities to go to find help finding work, has done a lot since 2012. They've expanded services to students with disabilities. They've expanded services to people who live with more complex needs looking for employment. And they've engaged the business community here in New Jersey in a lot of innovative ways. One example is the very cool Project Search program, where students and some adults with disabilities take part in very intense internships. Finally, an expansion of available benefit support, meaning help navigating the web of complex benefits that unfortunately people with disabilities can face when looking for work or when finding work. What will work do to the benefits when I start making earnings? We've really expanded the benefit support in that way a lot across the state, which has been really helpful. There's a lot more that I couldn't include here, but I just wanted to give you an example and really seeing how we have all of these simultaneous efforts that can be harnessed and streamlined to really help us get competitive integrated employment to as many folks with developmental disabilities and other disabilities as possible. The last thing I want to mention is I'd like to talk about the New Jersey Council on Developmental Disabilities commissioned report. It was released in 2022. called Advancing New Jersey's Employment First Policies and Practices. Really, to summarize, an intensive and thorough statewide analysis took stock of New Jersey's accomplishments, our challenges, our strengths, all as it relates to employment first. They also made very specific recommendations, the first of which was the establishment of an Employment First Commission to guide and streamline our efforts. The report notes that the benefits of an Employment First Commission is that it can, number one, really directly and meaningfully involve people with lived experience in our systems and policies as it relates to employment. Again, streamlining efforts to make them both more effective in their outcomes and their cost. Data collection, very important. It can be standardized and put in a comprehensive report to better inform our policies and funding priorities. The commission has the potential to create valuable connections with the business community. And lastly, these commissions help align New Jersey with federal guidance and other leaders in the country to follow what's called the High Performing States Framework. It's mentioned in the report what the High Performing States Framework is. So I really do encourage you to read that report. It really does provide the roadmap that could be utilized by this Employment First Commission. It can be found on our website, and it's also going to be included in the supplemental materials that Dr. Kimmel and I have put together for our portion of the presentation here. So now I really would like to introduce a couple of speakers who have lived experience to speak with you about why competitive, integrated employment is important to them. So I'm very happy to introduce to you Scott and Teresa. Little background. Scott Elliott is the executive director at the Progressive Center for Independent Living. Scott combines experience in disability and business communities to his 21 years of leadership. A disability advocate, leader, collaborator, and person with a disability, he champions independence, inclusion, and excellence for the agency. We also have another staff member of the Progressive Center, Teresa Peretti. She lives with a disability and has been a support coordinator at the Progressive Center for Independent Living for 5 years. So thank you to both of you for joining us and agreeing to share your story. Scott, how about you start us out? Let us know a little bit about the benefits of not only working competitively, but being in a role in which you have the opportunity to hire people with disabilities. I'll pass it off there. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Assemblyman and Mercedes and everyone. Just real brief to get right to this particular piece of legislation. I'll even back up further, 25 years in the business world. I was very lucky. I tell people I'm the luckiest man in the world sitting here with a significant disability and being lucky enough to be employed competitively, gainfully, and now 27 years actually, a little more, but it's 21 years as chair of the New Jersey Association for Centers for Independent Living. I have a form of muscular dystrophy called spinal muscular atrophy, and I was born with this, so it's progressive. And what's it allowed me to do is absolutely make a priority out of employment, as I heard early on by Dr. Kimmel, is the quality of life issue that it brings across the board for someone to work, to get the values, to really contribute and feel like a part of the community. So with my experience, I'm looking at working with all members. We work with all disabilities, all members of the Centers for Independent Living on the streets, in the trenches, supporting individuals. So my experience really can lend itself to finding that. Don't get me wrong, I also heard the window is very small, so my window is very small. And when I say luck, I know hard work, dedication, people with disabilities really contribute in people skills, I can't say enough. So I don't want to take too long because I want to make sure Teresa speaks to all this as well. But when you have people working and can share their stories, it just means a lot. I've seen it in action for all these years. Adam, that's what I'm going to leave with right now, if that's okay.
Great. Then, if possible, Teresa, are you able to speak with us a little bit about the benefits of employment and why, competitive integrated employment is so important to you? I know you told me some
Yeah,
great things before, so
yeah,
we would love to hear them.
sure. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Hi, I'm Teresa. I've been basically working in the community for about 26 years. I've been with Pickle for 5 years, but I've worked with individuals with IDDD for the last 16 years, so 26 years in total of work. When I was in high school, because of my disability, my guidance counselor, she encouraged me to go to community college instead of a four-year college. Not that there's anything wrong with a community college, absolutely not, never. But my family and I decided that that was not the right path for me. The guidance counselor just thought it would be easier, just an easier path for me because of my physical and my learning disabilities. She was just like, we feel that because of your learning disability and your physical disability, that this is the right thing for you to do. So my family and I, we sat and we were like, no, no, it's not. So I pursued a full-time college education with the right college, the right supports at the college, with the right supports around me. I was able to get my full-time four-year degree in psychology with a minor in English. And it took me some time, but I found a job and an employer that respects my differences and sees the value that I bring as an employee to my job. My job brings me purpose, which I feel is the most important thing that anybody or any individual, anybody can have in this world today. And my hope is that anyone who wants to work is given the chance to be able to show that they can work if they're given the right supports. And thankfully, my job gives me all the supports that I need and that I could ever want to excel in the job that I have. Basically, I'm just like living proof of what can happen and can be done if the supports are there and the tools are there for people like me who just want to succeed in society and be a contributing member and just have a normal, basic life. So that's really just all I have to say.
Awesome. Thanks so much, for sharing your story and the details thank you for that. It really helps give more of a background to why we are pursuing employment first so much in our state. And one thing I wanted to ask both of you guys, just because some folks on this call
Mhm.
are probably not super familiar with the services and supports that are available for folks who live with disabilities. And one thing that is kind of interesting about this presentation, honestly, I'm kind of discovering it as we're just talking here, is that, we're saying two things at the same time. We're saying, well, we need work, but we also have these great things going on. Can you help maybe for someone who isn't quite as familiar with all these different types of supports? Why in New Jersey could it be that we have excellent supports and services that are so helpful and so useful, but then at the same time, they might not be accessible. At the same time, the complexity or the siloed nature of some of them, how does that translate to someone who is living with a disability looking for these supports to help people understand why a commission like this would be so important to help streamline these efforts and make them easier to access.
I don't know if it makes any sense because my first employer out of college with my degree, they were scared, I think. They didn't know what to do with me. Yeah, I had the um, knowledge to work and I knew what to do, but the fact that I needed physical apparatuses to perform my job, like a different like a spinner knob and a basically spinner knob, like a different type of keyboard. They were just like, oh well, we have to make sure, like we have to get you a separate driving test, and they were just like scared. And I think having somebody that has differences that a general population does not, even though they knew I could do the job, they were just like, oh, like we have to get her extra stuff to do the job. Wow, are we able to do that? How can we do that? What can we do? I don't know if they knew where to go. And thankfully, I'm at a job now, thank you, Scott, that supports me and gives me what I need to do my job the best way that I know how and can do, that makes me so available to all of my clients that I support.
And thank you, Teresa, because the
Yeah.
families love her
Oh,
because
okay.
she relates and they relate. And mine are real simple. I'm on PASP, soon probably to be on workability. So this is like navigating, and that's what Teresa was alluding to, is navigating. So DVR, I have a $90,000 modification so I can drive my van with a joystick. It's amazing once you do know what's there, but so much more is needed. The commission, as Adam mentioned, silos, that is a dream of mine, actually. And I've been a very small contributor to the commission, setting this in place with Assemblyman Greenwald's office in Cora, and Adam and Robert and others. But you know, we this hopefully, you talk about integration. The commission, I think, really has a chance to make sure everybody's talking to each other in a very good fashion, efficient fashion, because we just need more open doors, even a crack, to give people a chance. That's all I have right now. I'll lose my voice.
Well, here, let's maybe do one more one. Sorry, there's so much good information to share. This one might be more for Scott. You know, something we touched upon about one of the goals of said commission would be to really to better connect with our business community, to make that a valuable relationship. Scott, as an employer, you know, what are some of the difficulties that an employer sees when hiring folks with disabilities, unfortunately, whether founded or not? um, you know, what could be some of the issues that are frightening employers out of hiring folks with disabilities that this commission may be able to address or involve?
Yeah, right away, they employers in general put up a flag right away of caution, meaning what kind of extra effort may have to go into hiring someone, support someone. But honestly, the I mentioned people skills and what that contribution can be from an individual with a disability to others. But right away, combinations are mostly, I'd say the vast majority, they're free, low cost. Um, I've had desks raised so I can get the wheelchair underneath with a 4x4. So, I mean, there's so many things the employers don't know, and that's been a big part of my life in our, my field now, in the human services field, with a top priority of employment that leads to so many good things for people at purpose, like Teresa said. But employers, getting back to that, I can talk all day with this, but employers just need to be educated a little more, learn how they can open the door to one person, starting with one person, because people skills probably equal 80% value for someone's success. And the reason I say that is they can contribute to other employees with their contributions, and it's just education. That's what I see with employers. If you have them opening the door, then they need to share, just like someone like Teresa and I are sharing today. Employers need to share. Once you have one, and I know personally, and many other people with disabilities sit on workforce development board, disability committees, but bringing in that business piece from DVR and others, getting employers to the table is the first step. We've gotten some, but we need many more.
Great. Thanks, Scott.
Adam, if I could turn a question over to you. I think that another resource that we haven't mentioned yet is a resource called Disability Benefits 101. And one of the things that I hear often is that people with disabilities are so afraid of losing critical benefits, health insurance, access to equipment, necessary equipment, and things that even if they worked and earned a great paycheck, they just couldn't afford um, the items and the benefits that are offered through programs like New Jersey Family Care. So, can you talk to us a little bit about resources that are available for folks to understand how employment and wages would impact their benefits? And, and if you could throw in there a bit about, and because I think this bill addresses the siloed systems and why it's sometimes just so hard for people to even think beyond um, and moving into employment because the systems are just so difficult to navigate. And does it really need to be that difficult?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in the field working with folks with disabilities, it was one of the most common questions I would get from families and individuals. It's, well, I heard if I work, I will lose benefits. And when I was in the field, honestly, the resources that were available were much more limited compared to what they are now. And so one of the things that I like to throw out there is nj.db101.org. If someone could throw that in the chat for me, that'd be great. But Disability Benefits 101 is a great starting place to sort of break some of those misconceptions. It's a really cool site that's in plain language, available in English and Spanish, translated by a human being, I might add, not by AI. So the translation is also in plain language. It's a great site to learn about what's Social Security, what's SSI, what's SSDI. It also has startlingly accurate, they are estimations to be clear, but the estimators are very thorough and you can plug in your information and it can give you some ideas and you might be surprised how much you can earn and what your options are. I mentioned it earlier, but New Jersey does have one of the most generous Medicaid buy-in programs. So for a lot of folks who live with intellectual and developmental disabilities, they have to receive Medicaid in order to get the important Division of Developmental Disabilities services. And through what we call NJ Workability, or the Medicaid buy-in program is kind of another way to refer to it, folks, more or less have unlimited earnings and unlimited savings. So the other resources that I would encourage everyone to look into would be is that if you're real serious about work, you've looked at DB 101, you say, wow, maybe I could do this. Get help from a certified work incentives practitioner. There are a few different ways to do it. Maybe when we're done here, I could put it together and get you the link. But I did put on our own website. We do have a listing of different resources for that, but one of the options is our WIPA programs here in New Jersey. Those are over the phone. Our Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services. also can provide benefits counseling, and a couple other places. I won't list them all here because folks probably won't remember, so we'll distribute it later. But just know that there is help out there and that having an expert who can look at your case, sit down, show you where you're at as far as your earnings, and show you what would happen in different scenarios is so important. And the more we use those services, the more they're demanded, the more we're going to get people providing those services and making them more available. So please, please, please check it out. And I highly encourage anyone interested in working who receives Social Security benefits to take a look at some of these resources and see if working could work for you. Because you might be surprised. We have a lot of options here in New Jersey.
And just to chime in quickly, everything Adam just said, most, if not all, that is nothing to do with the employer. It's all has to do with supporting that individual. It really is, and that gets done. So the employer doesn't have to worry about that, and that's very important.
Exactly. That speaks to that streamlining and de-siloing and one of the fears that a lot of employers have, unfortunately, is that it's more work. It's complicated, there's problems, but we do have the right supports. We just need to kind of line them up in the correct way.
So I'm going to take a moment and go back to probably 4.5 years ago. We had a session on employment. And one of the things we shared was a video, and it's important every day. So I'm going to take a moment and see if I can't make this work at the last minute. And if I don't, then I will give you the link so that you can watch this. It's very short, but I think very meaningful, and gives us, let's see, let me make sure it's working before I say anything more. Tell me when you can see my screen. It's not working, is it?
The big eyed Simone, and everybody saw that she could do the job. The lawyer went to the big eyed Simone, and everybody saw that she could do the job. The lawyer went to the baker and saw Simone at work. The lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired Simone. The dentist went to the lawyer and saw John at work. The dentist hired Sophia because the lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. Baker hired Simone. Farmer went to the dentist and saw Sophia at work. The farmer hired Kate because the dentist hired Sophia because the lawyer hired John because the baker hired Simone. The baker hired some. Farmer went to the farmer and saw Kate work. The farmer hired Paul because the farmer hired Kate because the dentist had Sophia because the lawyer hired John because the baker had Simone. The baker had Simone. The baker went to the barber. And saw Paul at work. He didn't have a clue, but it was thanks to his first move that the farmer had Paul because the farmer because the dentist had because the lawyer had because the baker had Simone. Baker had Simone. Baker had Simone. Yeah.
Okay, well, did that work? Because I was sitting there, not sure if y'all were seeing that. If you are as old as me, you would remember Sting, the entertainer who wrote and recorded that song. Um, and we I thank Simone because it does just take one person working in the community for employers to understand how employing people with disabilities is not only a good thing to do, a good thing for their um, business and for the community. So just like this draft legislation, um, it's going to spark ideas, a commitment, and a future direction that is the intent of our conversation today. So I'm going to turn back to Assemblyman Greenwald and any questions or any comments from members on the panel, our legislators or staff on the panel. Um, just raise your hand or unmute.
Mercedes, I was just going to say that video, it was choppy, but what came through and through again were the people skills, the social skills, what contribution people with disabilities can really make to other employees is I've seen it many, many, many times. So we need it many, many more times as well.
Thanks, Scott.
Absolutely. This is Senator McKnight. I totally agree. The video was choppy, but we got the essence of it. And here in my district, we have Hudson Enterprise, where they do hire people with abilities. I say that. And they are making a difference throughout the world. I also have, someone in my nonprofit office with a disability, with an ability, and she's amazing. So no matter what your ability is, as long as you're given an opportunity, you can definitely make a difference. And I'm proud to be a part of this coalition with the leadership of the majority leaders and everyone else. So thank you, and thanking everyone who's on this call.
Thank you.
And Mercedes, the one last thing I want to add is really learning a lot on this call today about the commissions in the other states and the difference they made. I think we're on the right track here, and it's not by accident that the most successful states are the ones that have these commissions. So I think I'm real excited about the direction we're going. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So this session again is being recorded. The information will be shared. Thank you, Assemblyman Greenwald, for kicking us off in this this calendar year on the topic of employment first. We want to remind folks that the supporting organizations are a resource, and we all appreciate all of you in our legislature and staff for using the supporting organizations as a resource in your offices and for your constituents. So next session, we can let you know the date is April 28th. We will be working with the caucus co-chairs on a topic, so please send your topics of interest. Senator Testa has a hand raised.
Thanks, Mercedes. I really
Thank you.
appreciate it. And, obviously, we're trying to do the best possible work we can. And I can tell you in my legislative district, we have Jersey Cape tags, which makes almost all of the beach tags for the entire state of New Jersey, which are made by individuals that have disabilities. That it's an amazing facility. I toured the facility as the chair of the manufacturing caucus, co-chair of the manufacturing caucus. They're doing great things. And I know my assembly mates are on as well, Assemblyman Simonson and McClellan. Just a quick question. I know Paul Aronson is retiring. Is there any possibility of replacing him, or who he is going to be replaced with? My understanding was that he may in fact not be replaced at all. And I don't want to lose that voice. So Mercedes, if you could talk about that, if you know.
Sure. So it is a governor appointed position, and it is in the legislature. It is a law. to have an ombudsman. So we hope, I think the disability community, while it will miss Paul, he certainly set a track record over the last 7 years that establishes a need for the office. And I guess we should be looking to our governor for who the next ombudsman will be. But the staff of his office remain serving people today, and a strong ombudsman is certainly what we would anticipate. But thank you for sharing the program. And again, it's sharing ideas, sharing resources that moves employment forward for people with disabilities. But our percentages are low, and we know as a state that we can do better. So anything else to that, Senator?
No, I think we have to do better. I mean, there's great organizations like Best Works that obviously, hire individuals who are blind. It's really incredible to see them in action and all of the work that they do over there. And again, I would encourage anybody to tour these facilities and see how these individuals who have disabilities are contributing. There are some issues that we have if individuals are employed for too many hours and they lose certain funding, which that's a difficult landscape to navigate that I think we're going to really have to wrap our arms around if we're going to be committed as much as we should be to this cause.
And Senator Testa, I would offer Adam Kubler on our staff at the council to any constituent who has benefit planning issues. Adam can certainly provide information, but can also direct people to other sources when information is needed. The resource he shared on Disability Benefit Planning 101 is an accurate way for people to understand how employment wages will impact their income, but we need to make it available and we need to make it easier for people to access. So thank you. Thank you for your commitment here.
Thank you.
Well, Assemblyman Greenwald, any final word before we sign off for today?
No, thank you. I know I said it earlier. I hope I didn't get cut off, but I want to thank Scott and Teresa. I think personal stories make a huge difference. It's very impactful. And it takes a lot of courage to come forward and talk about your personal life, but they're touching thousands of other individuals by doing that. It's greatly appreciated by the members.
Thank you again, Assemblyman. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody on April 28th and working on this bill in the interim. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
guys.
rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
Take care.
rest of your day.